to another episode of the Total R&B podcast. My name is Loreena, and today I'm here with another amazing guest. He is a producer from The Colleagues. Actually, you know what? The Colleagues are now one of my favorite producers because he has one of my favorite albums out from this year that we're going to get into. Sincerely Yours, Songs in the Key of Love. Well, welcome to the podcast, KP. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, no, thank you so much for being here. As I mentioned, we're definitely going to talk about this album that you put out this year because I think it's such a wonderful album that I just keep replaying. There's just so much to talk about. But I always start the podcast off the same way, which is what comes to mind when I say, what is your first memory of R&B music?
Michael Jackson.
Ooh, yes.
I know Mike makes different genres of music, pop, rock, all of that, but Michael Jackson, Babyface, that's what comes to mind for me. Yeah.
I love that. And it is true. Like Michael Jackson does different genres, but I feel like we should still claim him in R&B.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm with you on that one. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about just our culture. Like we can tap in because we've created so much of the music that everyone loves that we can tap into different genres and do it seamlessly. So I
Yeah.
think that is great. And so for you, like what music did you grow up listening to?
I listened to a lot of stuff. So on the R&B side, I was Babyface, Boys to Men, Jodeci, of course, Mike, like I said, but then I grew up on gospel music as well. So I'm listening to Kurt Franklin, John P. Key. And then on rap, I'm listening to Tupac, Bone, Biggie. So yeah, I listen to a lot of that, a mixture of things. My dad didn't allow us to listen to music with cussing. So
Okay.
I had to hide and sneak to listen to the Warren G's, the Snoops and Dre's and all that. So out loud, I was able to listen to the gospel and the R&B and listen to a lot of that. But then on my free time by myself, I'm listening to all the rap music.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think all of us were in kind of that field. Like my mom was not strict because she loves music. So she played like a lot of stuff, but I remember being young and like listening to Little Kim's first album. Like I could not play that out loud. So I had to
Yeah,
sneak off and like listen to that. But I think we've all been there. So I love that. And then you listening to different types of music, has that helped you when it comes to being a producer?
well, absolutely, absolutely. People are like, oh, you do all these different genres, and I'm like, it's because I listen to all these things, and when you listen to it, it's like forms your palate, and to where and at the time I didn't know I was forming this diverse palette and everything, but once I started doing music and started doing the different genres, I'm like, wow, like all these different artists that I listen to actually kind of helped me further along in my career. I would pull from different, you know, things that I've heard, like, oh, I want to do something like this because I remember hearing this on the Teddy Pendergrass song, but that I want to mix it in with something I heard on the Prince record. So it all helps.
No, definitely. And you can tell within the music because the colleagues have produced for hip hop artists, like in rap, R&B. You guys did K-pop as well, so that is also a whole different world compared to R&B. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely helped. So I'm not mad at that.
And how did you get into producing?
So I've always wanted to do music. So I wanted to be a rapper. That was like my first thing. Like I took it seriously. Like me and my cousin, we formed a rap group with the rest of our cousins, and I was serious about it. And I'm aging myself, but this was before you could like call people for free and everything long distance. So me and my cousin would communicate on AOL, and we would send rhymes to each other back and forth. And then I would draw album covers and be like, all right, so this is going to be your album cover. And then when we saw each other in the summer, we would put together these tapes, and I'll be like, all right, this is your album. This is my album, but nobody would hear it but us. But to me, it was just like, I would just had a fascination with putting albums together and just doing the rapping and everything. And I didn't care about the producing. Like he would be making the beats, and I'm like, I thought it was boring. I'm like, come on, man, let's hurry up so we can rap. And then just once I got to high school, I kind of just stopped it all because now I'm focused on just basketball, and that's all I was focused on. Then once I graduated and I realized I didn't want to go to school, I'm like, man, what am I gonna do with myself? And long story short, I was dating my high school girlfriend, and found out she was cheating on me again, and was called up one of my boys, and he said, "Man, just come over here, man. Just chill out over here, get your mind off of it." When I came inside the crib, he pointed me to a computer, and he was like, "Man, this is a little program over there. You could just play around with that. You can make beats and stuff." And I'm like, "All right." And I just sat down on it and just started clicking and clicking, BS beats, do 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 do. And then, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And next thing you know, it was like an hour go by, 2 hours go by. Then his parents was like, "Hey, you got to go." So it was like midnight. So I left, go back to the crib, and I downloaded on the computer, and I would be on it for 8, 9 hours at a time, to the point where I was like, I know what I want to do, and I literally dropped out of school. Like maybe a couple weeks later, I was in college my freshman year, and at a community college, got up during my exams and just left because I was like, I know what I want to do, and this ain't it. I ain't never made a dollar. I ain't never nobody even knew I wanted to do this, but in my mind, I was like, this is it, and I left.
That's crazy how life works. Like that day, like everything that you were going through, no one probably could have told you that this is what it's going to lead to.
Yeah,
That is
and it was one of the worst times of my life. Like when I found that out, we dating for 4 or 5 years, and it's like my felt like my world was just coming down. Like, nah, man, for real, nah, man. And then, but getting introduced to that, it was like I just forgot anything happened. Like it would be like the sun was going down, and next thing you know, the sun was coming back up. And my cousin, who was staying with me and my mom, she'd be like, "Carl, are you going to class? Class started in an hour." And I'd be like, "Nah, I'm gonna just drop you off at class, and then I'm gonna come right back." And I would stay up. I just love doing. When I got off of work, I got a job, and when I get off of work, I just go right back to the music. Like that type of feeling, that type of passion, I had never felt that before, and I was like, "This has to be something special. I have to do this." And it was nothing nobody could tell me. And I was horrible, but at the time, you couldn't tell me that. I felt like I was amazing. But yeah, it was God. Just I don't know. God just really came through.
for sure. For sure. And then, so how did the colleagues come about? Because like from you talking about rapping and putting all these things together and like drawing an album and figuring out what works for each person in the group that you did have, like it makes sense now that you have the colleagues, but how did that come together?
So colleagues is way later on. So I started the colleagues around 8 or so. I already had been producing by myself before then. I had ran a label, signed an artist and everything. And then when that didn't work out, he got locked up. I kind of just took a seat back, like I don't know what to do now because all my energy had been going into this artist and this label. And then he says, you need to get back into music. So I just reached out to the one producer that I had a good relationship with, and we started making beats together. And he was kind of teaching me the beginner things of producing, like some of the more musical aspects of it. And I said, man, we do so many good beats together. Why don't we just join and make a team? And I came up with the name. I said, the colleagues. And he said, all right. And then I said, all right, cool. And then we started, and it only lasted like maybe 3 months. We fell out, and it was the first big thing that had happened. Not big. It's not big now, but at the time it was big. But that's how it started. Then later on, like around, so we split around 2009, and then right around 2011, I had another guy come along. In 2013, I had another guy come along, and the one that came around 2011, our Chris, he stayed until about 2015, and then Harrison stayed until from 2013 to like 2020. And then once we split, we all on good terms. We talk all the time, but once we split, I was like, I'm just gonna stay by myself, and then until the right thing comes around along. But I had put all this money and energy into investing into the brand. I was like, I'm keeping the name. So when people see like the colleagues, where your partner at? Nah, it's just me,
But I mean, it still works because you're still collaborating with so many artists and different things like that.
and
So,
and producers too. So that's why I was like, I never wanted to be the one that be in the forefront and taking all the credit. So me using the name the colleagues lets me still hide behind uh, a brand that where I don't have to be the face, because I don't want to be the one that's like I'm doing everything. Because I do get help. I do work with a lot of musicians and other producers and stuff. So it's definitely a team effort.
And what's like one lesson you learned about working with different people? Because you see that so much, like people come together, they work, it starts off great, and then you see it fizzle out for different reasons. So what's something that you took away from, collaborating and working with other people?
Everybody works differently. Everybody takes criticism differently. Everybody responds to things differently. And you got to kind of learn how to navigate that. You got to learn how to communicate with people in a way where, you got to kind of just watch, learn, and figure out who you're working with, and figure out how you're working with them. Some people can take direct criticism, like, hey man, I don't like that. That sucks. Let's do that verse over, or I don't like that melody, or whatever it is. But then some people you can't go to like that. They get sensitive, or they may feel the type of way. So, or they may have a ego. So you got to kind of feed into how they like to be talked to in a way, and still be yourself, but at the same time, still kind of just cater towards how they like to work. And that usually makes things smooth. I don't clash with a lot of people. I'm very easy to work with. I like to have fun. I like to get to know people. Let's talk about stuff that just makes us laugh, smile, and just have a good time. Set the tone, and that sets the tone for the studio session, because now instead of being nervous, because there's times now where I'm working with people and they come in nervous and they're like hoping that I like stuff. And I got to remind them, like, I'm human just like you human. I got an opinion just like you got an opinion. It doesn't mean my opinion is more than yours. Let's just have fun. Like, this is all about having fun. And then once they kind of just relax, and then we just start having fun and laughing and stuff, and it's cool. But I don't want to be the ones, because there are several artists out there or producers that's so uptight and serious, and as soon as they're not smiling, they just straight to business when you come in, and that just, it doesn't help if you have anxiety problems like me. I have serious anxiety problems. So I try to treat people like how I would want to be treated. Let's just let everybody know this is going to be a cool, fun environment. And at the end of the day, we get to do this. This is a blessing. So let's just have fun. And if it doesn't work out, or it doesn't, whatever, like, it's just music at the end of the day.
That's true. And that's a good outlook to have and a good way to go about things. I think even outside of music, even just at work, wherever you work and you have to work with people or you manage people, I think that's something really good that people can take with them.
Yeah.
And then for you as a colleague, what was your first placement that you got?
First official placement was Mano.
Okay.
I did a song called Get 'em Tiger. And so much happened from that. One of my boys, Hills, hit me up and was like, hey man, I need some beats from Mano. And this was at the beginning of the colleagues. Like, I had just started the colleagues. I didn't have too many beats because my hard drive had went out on me. So I lost a lot of beats. So I'm starting to like do some new stuff. And then me and my ex partner split. So I couldn't send any of our stuff off. So I'm like, all right. So I just sent him whatever New York sounding beats I had. And then one day, and didn't think nothing of it. And then one day I was working at the time. So I had to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So he called me around midnight and just kept calling me. I kept seeing my phone light up the whole room. And I'm like, man, what is he calling? I kept hitting ignore, but he kept calling. And by the fifth call, I'm so glad he kept calling, because I kept hitting ignore. So by the fifth call, I finally pick up. I'm like, yo, what's up? He's like, yo, I'm in the studio, and they want Mano wants this beat, boom, boom, boom. I need you to send the files. And I didn't know anything like about sending files. I didn't know. I was like really, really green to a lot of this, and ended up getting my first entertainment lawyer at the time, and got in contact with him through a woman named Wendy Day. Wendy Day's like legendary, and she's like, get an entertainment lawyer. You can hit up this guy right here. He's pretty good. And then I hit him up and got my first check off of that. I remember it was like $2,000 or so. And so once my cut, like, I paid off the guy for placing it, my attorney, and I think I was left with like, I don't remember, 1,800 or something like that, or 1,700. I don't remember. I took it and got like 501s. And I remember just jumping on my bed and just throwing all the money up in the air. Like, I had never been paid that much money before for a beat. The most I had been paid was like $300. So when I got that check, I just remember being so happy. And it was on the radio too. So in select places, but definitely in New York, it was getting a lot of play. In LA, it was getting play. So people all over was calling me like, I hear your song on the radio. I hear your song on the radio. I remember hearing it for the first time on the radio for myself. And I just remember being in the car. It was cold. Well, cold because I'm from Florida. So it was
Okay.
cold. But I remember just being in the car just screaming. Like, I couldn't believe that I had a song on the radio and I had a real official placement. So that was my first official placement.
No, that's amazing. Like that's an amazing feeling to have when you first get that placement and then for it to land on the radio. But that's crazy that you had to kind of learn as you go because that
Yeah.
never happened before.
I learned so much. I remember my attorney saying, "Hey man, you got lucky on this one. Most people don't send beats and just get placements like that. You know, most people have to have hooks or demos or stuff." And I was like, "I don't even." He's like, "Yeah, most people hook up with songwriters." I'm like, "I didn't even know like how to hook up with a songwriter. Like I had never worked with a songwriter, so that's how green I was. Didn't know anything about attorneys. I didn't know anything about anything the stuff I was signing. But I'm glad I had him to at least navigate that for me. But I didn't know how royalties came in. Like I like everything kind of just changed after that. I didn't know who was A&Rs and stuff. Like I heard the name A&R, like, oh, you're A&R, but I got connected to my first A&R after that. So like a lot of stuff happened from that moment on.
And so for like a producer that's coming up now and trying to get their first placement, what would you advise them to do in case like that moment does happen for them?
So I have a ebook out that I talk about my road to the lessons that I learned on earning six figures in music, and it's $4. But I try to make it really really cheap, but it's so I can help producers tell them. And one of the things on there is I try to tell them like who do you need on your team? So attorneys, and I try to tell them why they need these people on their teams and why and how it affected me when I didn't have them when I needed them. And attorneys is one of them because there's a stigma around that. I can't afford an attorney. I can't afford an attorney. And it's like not every attorney works the same way. So if you can get some that'll be like, hey, I'll represent you. And when you have something that comes in, I'll get a percentage of that or, you know, whatever, or you could pay me a flat fee to look over this, but it's not someone that you necessarily have to keep on a payroll that you got to keep paying even when you're not using them. So I go through so many of these things of people that you need on your team from engineers to attorneys and stuff. So, but definitely an attorney because that's the most important because when something happens, they're going to rush you to make you feel like you got to sign this paper and hurry up and get it back to them, which is not the case because this game is a hurry up and wait thing. They want you to hurry up, but then when it's your time to get whatever you need to get, it's wait. So an attorney will look over this paperwork, make sure that you're not signing no BS, that you're not giving away some rights, to make sure that you're getting things that you probably didn't even know, so you can make sure that you're good on every single aspect. So attorney would be the one I'd be like, make sure you get one of them, an entertainment lawyer, not just any kind of attorney, entertainment lawyer.
And where can people get this book?
So it's on my website, producebythecolleagues.com. The link is in my bio. And the ebook, you can do a video course, or you can do the ebook. The ebook's $4.99. So yeah, really simple. But I break everything down on all the lessons that I learned, and I just tell stories of just how much I went through and how you can avoid some of these things by not doing some of these things. And hopefully it'll advance you and move you past certain things because I didn't have that coming up. I didn't have anybody to tell me, hey, don't do that. I just learned by just doing it and be like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do that next time. And you live and you learn.
No, but that's so dope. And that's one thing that I love now about this generation. There's so much information that is out there, and there's so many people that are not gatekeeping the information. So we have someone like you who's established, had so much great success. You're putting all that information into a book that is affordable for people to get. There's another person that I got to interview, the songwriter Tracy Hale, and again, she has her program for songwriters and a book so people, can navigate this industry because it's a lot from what I've been learning. So I
Yeah.
think that's so cool.
Yeah. I would go to these music conferences. There's no knock to them, but I would get the information that I needed for that level. I'm like, oh, this is game changing for me. But then once I started elevating and more, I would go back to some of these conferences and I would still hear the same stuff. And I'm like, man, this is just surface level. Like they're not even diving into it. But then or they'll be like, oh, well, contact me and you can pay me such and such, and then I'll tell you more. And I'm like, why aren't this information should be given? You're getting paid to be here to speak at these conferences. Give them the game. But if you don't have time to go over everything, which I understand, make it to where it's affordable. Like if you're really trying to give the game away. So this is like me kind of like giving the game away. It's like if you can't invest $5, it's like $4.99. So if you can't invest $5, it's like yeah, you just don't want to. You don't want to. You don't want to learn basically.
It's true. And I worked at one of those music conferences here in Canada. And so I know sometimes we have the same conversations over and over again. And because Canada is so small, we always get the same like people that are coming to these conferences. So I kind of chucked it up like it's just a great place to network.
Yeah,
Sometimes all the panels are kind of, it would be like the same information that you received the previous year, you know?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's so dope though that you did that. I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm going to spread the word to people because I think so many people can benefit from having that ebook. So,
Appreciate it.
definitely gonna let people know. I do want to jump to the album because I really want to talk about this album, Sincerely Yours, Songs in the Key of Love, which is a play on Stevie Wonder's classic Songs in the Key of Life, which is another album I love. How did that album inspire this one?
How did that album inspire this
Or
one?
was it
So
just the name?
it was more so the name, I would say. I mean, first of all, I love the album, but I knew I wanted to have an album that I'm very big on themes. If you listen to some of the albums I released, I'm big on themes and having like a topic or something that I'm kind of getting at. And for this, I knew I wanted to talk about love, all the different angles of love, and I feel like love has kind of been watered down a little bit in marriage per se. Like when you watch Love is Blind or any of these type of shows, they make it seem like, oh, I met you 2 weeks ago and I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And then when things happen, they start divorcing and they hear such and such from contestant, such and such from Love is Blind. They're now divorced after a year. And I was like the people don't understand there's so many different levels of this love and marriage and everything, and there's so many different things. So that's why I tried to come through with different angles and put in the skits and talk about and drop the little nuggets in there about relationships and stuff, because I feel like you got the ups, the downs. And then so when I started thinking about the name, it was like Songs in the Key of Love was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, I love Stevie, I think he's the greatest next to Mike. And it was like, this is literally songs in the key of love. It's literally, I mean, like you said, key of life is key of love. So that's pretty much where it came from.
And because this album is a collaborative album, you have a list of singers from the newer generation to, singers that we grew up loving, like Case and Slim from 112. So, how did you go about selecting the singers that will be on this album?
So I'm big on singing. I need them to be able to sing. Like, so, and honestly, I just went into prayer about it before the album even started. I knew that I wanted to reach out to some artists that I haven't worked with before, because this is my fourth R&B one that I did. And I just wanted to get some different people that I haven't worked with. But I was like, man, I just prayed, like, I just, please let this come together. Please let the right artists come around. I just didn't want any egos. And I was just praying that this would just come together the right way. And I just started reaching out. I said, had my wish list, and I'm like, these are the ones that I want to get. And for the most part, it happened for the most part. And I just messaged them. Like, me and Case have been following each other for a while, and we've been talking about working, but we just, I didn't hit him up about it. He didn't hit me up about it, but I kept saying, I need to work with Case. I need to work with Case. So then when the opportunity came, I'm like, I'm going to dive all in with this album. Let me just try to just swing for the fences and hit up Case and then hit up Kevin Ross and Slim, because I never worked with them. So I didn't know how this was going to go. And they were all down. And I'm like, all right, cool. We looking. Raheem, I knew was a go because we worked together so much. And Vedo, we hadn't worked together in a few years, so it was one of those. I hope he's down. And Stanley, Jay Brown. I met Jay Brown through Raheem, so it was like me just reaching out to people that I'm actually fans of and just being like, if I could get them, I know this is gonna be dope because I know all of their music and I know they're dope. So yeah, it came together. So I'm so thankful for that.
It's such a great selection of artists for this album. And like you said, you were choosing singers. And I love a singer because we don't often get that now the way that the music industry is. It's we don't really have the singers anymore or those songs coming out about love and marriage. So this was so cool to get that. I want to ask though, because you did say that you worked with Raheem DeVaughn for so many years, like how did that relationship form?
So let's go back to 2012. He One of my ex partner, our Chris, sent over some beats to Raheem, and he called me one day, was just going crazy, like, Raheem DeVaughn just called me. Raheem DeVaughn, not called, I'm sorry. Raheem DeVaughn just hit me back. He hit me back about a beat and he's going crazy. And I wasn't hip to his music like that. I was hip to his music, but not the person behind it. Like I didn't know who sang it, but I heard the songs before. So, and I was like, who? Who is that? And then so I was like, all right. So then just kind of casually talking to my brother one day, I was like, yeah, man, right, this dude named Raheem DeVaughn just hit us up about a beat. So, that because at the time I never done R&B music. That was always a goal. Like I need to get in R&B. At the time it was all rap. So I'm like telling my brother, like, hey, I might have an in on R&B. I've just got a call from or just got a message from Raheem DeVaughn, and then he says, man, that's the dude I've been telling you about that you need to work with. Like my brother always says, you need to hit up such and such. You need to hit up Jesse Riaz. You need to hit up such and such. Like he always just throws these names out there. So Raheem DeVaughn was one of them. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that this is who you was talking about. And then I go to the barbershop and I go to the barbershop and I'm getting my hair cut and he's playing this song and I'm like, I thought it was Marvin Gaye. I says, hey man, this song sound good. It says, this Marvin like a remix? He said, nah, this is Raheem DeVaughn, song called Bulletproof. And I'm like, oh, I says, that's Raheem DeVaughn. I says, okay, this dude is dope. Then I didn't know that that was him. So I was like, okay, cool. So then fast forward, like maybe like a couple days later, he calls me while I'm at work. I'm working overnight. And it was just like 100% respect. At the time, I had just worked with Nipsey Hussle. And he was like, yo, I got a couple beats from you that I like. And I know you just worked with Nipsey. I can't really afford to pay you what you probably worth because I'm doing this independently now, so everything out of my pocket. But if you take care of me, I promise you, like I got you for, I always make sure I take care of you. And I was like, all right. And then he quoted me. He was like, I'll pay you $2,000 per beat, or I think he said 2,500 per beat. I forget, but at the time, I was only making outside of that Mano track. I'm still only making $300-400 a track. So I'm like 25 per. And I was like, yeah. So we ended up working and we never like he's been my brother ever since. Like we've got so many songs together. Man, I don't even know how many songs we got together. Like, we got so much stuff together. So like we never gonna stop working.
I love that he was honest
Yeah.
when you guys started working together because I hear so many horror stories when people collaborate and for people to get paid. So I
Oh
like
yeah.
that he was honest
I
at the
got those too. He kept his word, man, and just always keeps me in the loop of anything that he got going on. Hey man, I got this going on. Can you send me something for such and such? Hey man, I need this and this. I'm in the studio with such and such tomorrow. Like he always keeps me in the loop.
That's amazing. And I actually saw him perform for the first time at Essence this year.
Okay.
Never got to see him. I just see clips online. And so I finally got to experience it and it was amazing. Like I'm hoping one day I could see like a full concert.
Yeah, his solo shows are like he's a showsman, man. Like he really
Mhm.
knows how to put on a show. So yeah, you should do that.
Yeah, definitely. Another person that I got to interview is on the album, Joe Leone. So I
Okay.
was so happy that he's on there because hearing his last album too, I was just like, where did you come from? Because I randomly discovered him and I was like, yo, this dude's amazing.
Same here. Went to go. So anytime October London comes to Atlanta, for some reason I'm always out of town. And this time when he was on tour, it was about to be the same case. I was going to be out of town. So I saw that he was going to be in Nashville the day before. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Nashville. So I go to Nashville and it was October closing the show. And then before him was Tamar Braxton. And then it was Ro James. And then Joe opened up for everybody. And when he went on stage, he don't have the same lighting as everybody else. He's playing the keyboard, and I don't know the song, but I'm hearing his voice, and I'm paying attention to what he's saying, and I'm like, this is this dude is actually dope. I told my boy Frank Rose we came together, and I was just like, yo, this dude is dope. We both looked him up on Instagram, and I wrote him as he was performing. I was like, bro, we got to work because I'm thinking I'm not gonna be able to see him, so I go to link up with Ro James and he was with Ro James. So I go to speak to Ro James and I turned around like, hey, you really dope, man. Like, we gotta work. And he says, oh yeah, for sure, man, let's work. And then he DM'd me back later on and was like, oh yeah, I'm on tour, so I'll listen to these beats because he gave me his email, sent him some beats, and then he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be on tour, so I'll check him out in a few months. And I'm like, man. But he comes back several months later and hits me up and was just like, hey, I recorded some songs. And I'm like, I forgot all about these. And Next thing you know, he just starts sending me songs, and I realized like he's a songwriter, like a true songwriter, and he's so dope. And he wrote the song with Slim.
The song with Slim.
He wrote the song with Slim. He wrote "Will They Won't They" with Jay Brown, and then he wrote his own song, of course. So like, and those are supposed to we wrote other songs, but his label was like that has to go on your album, and I'm like, all right. Then I give him another record, and then the label's like that has to go on your album too, and I'm like, all right, bro. Like I'm starting to close out this album. I need one from you, and then that's how Love's Last Chance came about.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. I didn't realize too because I don't always get to see the credits now on
hmm
songs. So I didn't realize he wrote all those ones too. That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. He's super dope. His pen game is amazing. Like he wrote two for Slim, and I'm like, it was so hard to choose which one. And I'm like, Slim was like, man, you choose because I love both of these. And I'm like, let's go with the more up tempo. I need that right now. So yeah, but he killed it though. That's his backgrounds, and these backgrounds are on both songs as well. If you hear, you can hear his backgrounds on the hook and the pre-hook and all that stuff.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and check that out. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, and then another thing that I love about the album is that you have what is his name? Cayman Kelly
yeah.
on there, giving like the Quiet Storm vibes on the album, which I love. So how did you think to put that in the album also?
I'm big on loyalty. I'm big on just giving people their flowers, especially the ones that don't get it as often as they should. And I kept getting DMs or text messages or calls from all kind of people saying, "Hey, man, this guy on Sirius XM was just showing you love and everything." And I'm like, okay. And I kept hearing that over and over and over again. So finally, I was like, "Who is it?" They said, "Cayman Kelly." I was like, oh, "Okay." I said, "He was showing me love." I'm like, "All right." So I go look him up, go to his Instagram. I shoot him a DM like, "Hey man, thanks for the love that you've been saying on, Sirius XM. I appreciate it." And he wrote me back, was just like, "Oh nah, man, you put out amazing music, boom, boom, boom." And then like maybe like a day or two later, I'm starting to think like, what if I include him on this? And so that way it's not too much talking from the skits and it kind of balances out a little more. And I'm like, and it kind of help set up the album a little bit more. But I didn't know if he would say yes or not. And then so I just hit him up with a message, say, let's get on the call. We got on the call and we literally talked for maybe about 45 minutes or so. And he just told me about his life and just told me about everything, about his passion for it. And he just showed me love and I showed him love. And he knocked it out like 2 days later. Like I sent him what to say and he knocked it out literally like a day or two later. I was like, wow. And so I thank him like this. That was like huge for me. So it was like, yo, that's crazy that he did that. I'm like, okay. And a lot of people have been bringing it up and saying how much they love his contribution to the album.
It's one of my favorite things. Like I guess not it's not a song. He has the interlude, but he's there and it just fits. Like it just flows so well and it just brings me back to a time where I was younger and I would be listening to the radio late at night and having those radio personalities like the Quiet Storm and stuff like that. So I loved it. So I thought that was such a great thing to include in the
Yeah,
album.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about to clip that because he has to hear that.
No, like, and because I love radio, like I'm a radio girl. I started a radio show here in Montreal. So I just love when things like that are included, but obviously it has to make sense and it works so well. He did such a good job. And I was
Yeah,
gonna ask too if he came up with those or if you wrote them out and he just
yeah.
performed them. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote him out because he does a lot of voiceover stuff. So I didn't want to add too much to his plate by saying, "Hey, can you do this and can you come up with it?" And he didn't hear any of the album at the time, so it was like, let me just write everything out. I kind of know what I want to say, but I just said, obviously use your own discretion. I said you can take out stuff if you want, you can add a couple things in there, and he did that. So, but I basically gave him like the foundation of this is what I want to be covered, So and he took it from there.
Okay. And even the way the album starts too with Viola, I always mess up the last name.
You
Davis.
you're the first one to say that. You're the
Really?
first one. Nobody else know that.
No, because I remember that clip. Because when she said it, I was like, "That's so powerful." And just thinking about certain people that I know that are married and what
Yeah,
they go through, I'm like, it's so honest. But it's such a shocking thing to hear, especially setting off an album.
Yeah,
Thought it was really cool to put that because people always just talk about the good side of marriage and not really what happens
yeah.
inside of marriage throughout the years.
So we're not gonna say where it came from, but when I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do it, I knew I wanted something there from like a counseling or therapy or something like that, where like real honest, feedback is being given. And when I came across that, because I watched it as well, so but I started just going through 3 or 4 in the morning, and I was sitting there for like 2 hours. And as soon as I heard that clip, I was like, that's the intro. Like I didn't even hear nothing else. I was like, this is the intro. And then everything else I would hear and I'd be like, oh, this will go well with this song. Oh, this will go well with this song. And then boom, and just put it all together.
Yeah, no. It was good. I was like, "Oh, this is a good way to start off the album," because you're just like, "What are we gonna get into?" The way that you produced it and put everything together was done just so well. So I just want to say congratulations on
Thank
that
you.
because, like I said, this is one of my favorite albums from
Thank
this
you.
year because we don't get these type of R&B albums. This
Thank
was
you.
definitely a treat to everybody who loves like R&B, who loves music. Like this was so dope.
Thank you. Yeah, it was putting it together. I was nervous, but when I thought it was done, I still felt like I think it's missing something, but I think it's good. And then the day before I sent in the album, Vedo sends in the last song. And I was like, I didn't think he was gonna send it through because he kept saying, I got you next week. I got you next week. And then when I finally heard it, I was like, oh my god, this is a single. Because the Slim record was gonna be the second single. And I was like, oh, this has got to be a single. But it was what I needed because I had no like sexual songs on there, like no romantic vibes. So it literally fit perfect in there. And but after I finished it and it was like mixed and I kept listening to it over and over again, I was like, man, this is special. Like, but then when it came out, it was one of those like I got teary eyed. I was getting, I'm crying because I'm just like, now I'm listening to it from a fan point of view. Like, I'm fans of all these people, and I never thought that this would happen like this. Like, I never thought that like I'm just looking at it like I'm just so grateful. Like God, like you literally orchestrated this whole thing, and I prayed about it, and it came through. Raheem's calling me 4 or 5 in the morning, telling me like how much he loves the album. He never does that. I'm like, bro, I'm on album number 10, and he's just now telling me this type of feedback, but it meant so much more to me. Like, man, I know this has got to be great if you're saying all this, and so it was just one of those. I got all kind of phone calls, and all the artists was hitting me up, and I'm like, yo, this is special. Okay, I think I got something right here.
Yeah, definitely it is because as soon as I heard it, I was just like, this is just I can't explain it because I've never had something like this for so many years. Like I was the kid that would be like at HMV all the time and we had a store called Music World and our Future Shop, which is like our Best Buy, and I would be always buying CDs and like going in listening to full on CDs of Jagged Edge or Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, all those things, and having those great cohesive albums for R&B. And I kind of feel like we lost that for a long time. So to get something like this that takes me back to that feeling was just amazing.
And it's fun putting together my own albums because I get to come in with the vision of what I want you to sound like, because you can't do that on their album because it's about
Mhm.
what they want. So now it's like, well, yeah, you know, I want you to I want to hear what you sound like on this kind of vibe. Give you something that people will remember you for, but then put my little twist and a more modern sound into it, but still get an old school vibe. So it's like I knew I wanted Case on like a mid tempo, something with a little more bop to it and everything. So it's like I just knew same thing with 112. I mean with Slim because some of my favorite 112 songs. I love the slower songs, obviously, but the up tempos was just as great. And so it's like I knew I wanted something more up tempo with him. But yeah, it's fun being able to just appreciate it from a different lens and be like you said, like I remember listening to 112 when I was a kid, and I remember listening to Case, and I just it was just a real
Mhm.
dope thing for me.
And I gotta ask too, because I remember when you were saying when you were sending beats like back with Mano and the lawyer was telling you like you're not teamed up with a songwriter. And I know for this album, like some other people, like Joe wrote some songs. So do you have songwriters that you go to now that
hmm
you collaborate with to create these demos?
Yeah. So fortunately for me, when it comes to R&B, majority of the artists that I work with do their own writing. October London writes his own stuff. Raheem writes his own stuff. Joe Leone writes his own stuff. Kevin Ross writes his own, and so on. So it's like I don't necessarily have to be like, do you need me to get this someone to write this? And but sometimes the artist is just too busy. Like, not saying Slim can't write, but Slim was on tour. Case was on tour. So it's like, let me just try to make it as easy as possible for you, because if you don't, you asking for that timeline to keep going. Now you're waiting several months because they trying to squeeze you in into their hectic schedule. So it's like, hey, October London, can you write this song for Case? And then boom, that's how that whole thing got done. And then, same thing with Joe Leone and Slim. But yeah, I have, depending on what it is, I got songwriters that I only hit up for gospel stuff. I got songwriters I only hit up for R&B stuff. But then, I may need, sometimes it may not work for this type of R&B artist. So I know who I can go to for whatever artist.
And that must be crazy for October London or Joe to be like, write the song for Slim or write the song for Case, because they're such staples in R&B. So for them to even get that experience to write for these artists,
Yeah,
that probably for them is pretty cool too. Because I'd be
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, October was like, yeah, I'm down, man. I love his music. And I was like, all right, cool. And he wrote it like right away, right before he went on tour,
What?
and then sent me everything. And it was supposed to be just Case on the record. But then I loved how October sounded on the record. I said, you know what? When we was recording it, it was in the studio. I says, do you mind if I leave October on and we leave him on the second verse and y'all split up the hook? And he was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Like, I've been wanting to do a record with him too. So that's how that worked out. But Joe was excited to write for Slim. He really tapped into. If you hear the demo, you could be like, "Oh wow!" Like, it sounded and felt like Slim. But like, you know how that saying is, it looks like a Bentley until a Bentley pulls up. Like, it sounded like Slim until Slim really got on that thing. And it was like, but we knew he was gonna sound good. But when he did it, he just took it to another level. And it was like, oh man, this is crazy. So yeah, if you can get a writer that knows how to tap into the artist and like make the artist be like, I can see myself on this, that's usually when you got something good. But they can't get on there writing as if they're writing for themselves, and then they're like, I can't connect to this.
Yeah, that doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
And who do you have like on your wish list now to collaborate with that you haven't worked with yet? Is there like three artists you can name?
As far as like me putting it out,
Yeah. Like if you could work with them and maybe have them on your next, like a future album.
I mean, that's a ton of those. Um, I got a ton of them. Chris Brown.
Mhm.
I mean, I got so many. I could name all the top names and stuff. Like, but
Yeah.
I
But if
would
there's
love.
like two more you can name.
I'll do it like this. And I'll just name one from different genres. So like, I would love to do. Right now, I would love to do, as far as male R&B, I would love to get a record with Chris Brown or Usher, of course. R&B female, I would love to get one with Alex Isley. I know like people expect me to say Beyonce or something like that, but it's like Alex Isley is just phenomenal to me. I love, and I just drew a blank. She's from the UK. I forget her name. The white girl from the UK. I forget her name, but
What is her? Is it the one that has? Is she from the UK? The one with the red hair?
damn, this is gonna be edited, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh,
Don't
okay. I'm
worry.
just trying.
Because I think there's Sasha Kevel.
Sasha. So yes, her, Sasha. So she was supposed to be on it, but just the timing was just bad because she was working on her album as well. That's another thing. That's what makes these albums harder is if they're touring, then working on their album, and then they're still trying to knock out a bunch of features. I'm getting put to the back burner right now. Just being honest, like, they don't view me as a Metro Boomin or anything like that. So they're like, yeah, he can wait. So, but yeah, I would love to work with Sasha. Gospel, I would love to do something with PJ Morton. I would love to do something with Kurt Franklin, then rap. Like I would love to do a rap album as well. I would love to do a whole album with Freddie Gibbs. I know this is giving you more than what you asked for, but
No, it's okay. I love this because when I see it come to fruition, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay.
yeah, Freddie Gibbs. I would love to do a rap album with him. I would love to do something with Paul Wall. Like, I think I can, and I've been asking him, but I think I could contribute something to his sound as well, and give him something familiar but something new as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that
yeah,
is That's amazing. So when we see these collaborations happen, you heard it here on Total R&B.
Yeah, I speak everything into existence. To be honest, like I pray about it, and I'm like, it's gonna happen. I know that the tongue is very powerful, so it's like I do watch what I say. So it's like when I say something, like I truly believe like it'll happen.
No, definitely. I believe the same thing too. So I always like to also just know like who people want to collaborate with, and then I love when it actually seeing it come to life because I'm just like I know how much they were like wanting to do that. So for it to come together, I think it's really special. So I love asking that question just to see where people's minds are and then see it come to life.
So when it happens, I'm gonna tag you, and that's you ain't gonna know why.
Yeah.
I'm so for real. One of my homegirls, she put me on to not indirectly put me on to Pastor Mike Jr.'s music like several years ago, and she sent me a playlist like, send me your gospel playlist and I'll send you mine. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then I ended up hearing Pastor Mike for the first time, and then it made me go searching for him. Like, man, this dude is kind of nice. And then we ended up connecting, and then we ended up working. Now we work together all the time. But I always credited her from the beginning, like, this doesn't happen if you don't send me this playlist. So when I got my first placement with him and we got these nominated for these awards and stuff, like I would tag her on it and like thank her as well, because you listen to like, God told you to hit me up and text me that, and then and here we are. Like, does that happen if you don't text me? I don't know, but I'm gonna make sure that like you just never know when you plant that seed, just if it's gonna grow or not.
No, that is definitely true. And I don't want to keep you for too much longer, so I just wanted to ask because this album is out, we have singles that came out. Is there anything more that we're going to receive from this album this year?
Vinyl. Got the vinyl coming out. I've never done vinyl before, but a lot of people have been hitting me about the vinyl. So I got vinyl and I got CDs coming of the album. So that should be late August, maybe early September, but possibly late August.
I like it. I feel like I'm going to buy that for myself for my birthday. I like it.
When's your birthday?
In September,
It's
early
okay.
September. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. I like I told you, love this album. So if I could get it on vinyl, I think that would be dope. So I'm going to look out for that definitely.
Got you. Got
Yeah.
you.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time out to speak with me. This was a treat for me. So thank you so much again. Everybody needs to check out the album Sincerely Yours, Songs in the Key of Love, and also go back and listen to all of the albums that you have out, the colleagues, because they are super dope. Is there any and they need to also go online to get the book too, all the producers. They need to
Yep.
check it out. Is there anything else that
Oh,
we need to
and I got the colleague, I got the album merch as well, t-shirts. So you can get you a t-shirt as well. They almost sold out, but we got a few sizes left. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, again, thank you, KP, for coming on and sharing a bit of your story with us, and as well as this album. And congratulations on all your success. I'm going to be following and supporting, and I can't wait to see all the other things that you do. So you have definitely a fan in me because this was amazing. And everybody that's listening and watching, this is the Total R&B podcast. My name is Loreena, and I will be back next week with a brand new interview.